So today we'll build a sequencing setup in the grid very much inspired by the Turing machine UREC module where you can generate random sequences and then lock them and have them loop. This is what it looks like. You can find this preset and many more on my Patreon if you are interested, links in the description. So we will build this setup in the node grid, and let's start with the basic idea. For this we will use the dice module. This module will generate a random value each time it's being triggered, and I would like the values to go up and down, so we will set this to be bipolar, and to trigger it we will use the triggers module, set it to 16 so we get a resolution of 16th notes, and also turn on mute when stopped, so we know when we stop the project nothing will happen. Now if I use this to trigger the dice, and let's see this also on the scope, maybe make this a bit bigger here, right, set this to slow, right, you can see that we get random values. And this we will use for pitch. So first of all, we will use the attenuate module so we can control the range of the pitch of the sequence, and then also quantize it by scale. So it will be quantized to the project scale, and this will go to the pitch output. And just so we can listen to this, I will use the button module just to open the gate. Right, so again we get random values, random pitch in this case. And the way we will bring this to loop will be by adding probability to the triggers, in this case with the chance module. Let me zoom in a bit. Right, the chance between the triggers and the dice, if we set this to 100%, we have 100% probability of change, so we always get a new note, we always get a random sequence. But if I set this now to 0, right, we get the last value that was generated. And this is the main idea. We can have a random sequence, a looping sequence, or something in between by using probability. Now I would like to control the probability externally. So we will use for this the value module. This will go to the probability input, and now I can control this externally. And to create a sequence from this, we will use all in all 8 of these pairs of the chance dice pairs. Let me put this here, right? So we have 2, we have 4, and we have 8 of them, and we will use the merge module to switch between the values. So let me take this out here a bit. Right, we will use the merge module, set this again to have 8 steps because we have 8 pairs. And also here under interpolation, let's set this to nearest. So instead of crossfading between the values, it will switch between them. And now connect, let me disconnect this here, connect the dice modules, right, and also connect this already to the scope, or in this case already to the output. And now to drive the merge module to actually switch between the steps or the values, we will use the step access module, set it again to 8 steps because we have all in all 8 steps, and again 16th notes. Connect this to the merge module, and again set the probability for now to 100%, and again this is why I'm using the value. Now I can set all of them together. So now we have 100% probability that the notes will change, and basically we will get a random sequence. But now when I set the probability to 0, we will get a looping sequence. Right, again, now each dice has its own value. There is no probability, there is no chance that they will change. So we have a looping 8-step sequence. But again, I can randomize things and loop them again. Now I can also set the probability just a bit up. So we still get something looping, but every now and then it will change. And we can make this a bit less sensitive. You see now I have it on 2.5% and already it has lots of changes. So we can lower the sensitivity by lowering the clock rate. So if I set this, instead of 16, I set this to 2. Now with each cycle, the chances or the chance modules will be triggered, and only then there is a chance that they will change. So now I have more sensitivity here. Right, and we still get 16th notes thanks to the step access that's driving the merge module. Now we can take this a step further and add also the invert functionality like on the Turing machine. So on the Turing machine, if we turn the knob to the left to lock the sequence, we get double the length of the sequence. Now the Turing machine works a bit differently. It works with bits, and actually it will invert the bits, not the sequence itself. But what we will do, we will reverse the sequence and we will create something a bit longer. And we will do this by inverting the phase. And for this, we will use the phase reverse module, this one here. And then to make the switch, we will use the select in. We will use once the normal phase, once the phase through the reverse. So once it will go forward, once it will go in reverse, and this will now drive the merge module. And to make the switch between normal and reversed, we will use the phase scaler. Right, drive it again with the same phase. Now we can scale this phase with a ratio of 1/2. So we get once a whole phase once per cycle. And this will trigger, we have here a trigger output to trigger the select in. So each cycle, it will change between forward and reverse. And just to be safe, I'm going to use the transport playing module here to reset the scaler. This will output a trigger whenever we hit play. So every time we start the project or we hit play, everything will start together. And now we should get once the normal sequence and once the reversed. So if I hit play here, let me open the button also. Right, you can see it goes once down, once up. And this works nicely also with shorter sequences. We don't have to stay with 8 steps. We can go with, let's say, 5. Right, and again, I can lock it. Right, so we get now a longer sequence. So we have now the pitch sequence. Let's quickly create also the gates. Basically what we will do in this case, we will convert the sequence, the pitch sequence into gates, and let through triggers when the gates are high. For this, we will need the seal module or the sealing module, this one here. Right, I will use a copy of the sequence. This will go here and will go to the second input here on the scope. Just to see how it looks like, let's go with a green, let's say. So now if I play this, right, you see the red is the sequence and the green is the sealing module that will give us triggers or gates depending on the, let me unlock the sequence, depending on how long the values go above 0, right? So sometimes we have longer gates, sometimes shorter gates. And now we can use this to gate triggers. So for this, we will need another triggers module. Right, again, set this to 16, so we get 16th notes. And now to combine them, we will use logic. We will use AND logic. So we have once the gates from the sealing module and once the triggers, and only when both are high, so only when we get a gate from the sealing, we will get triggers, we will get triggers coming from the triggers. You see now we converted them into triggers, and this we will use to gate or to trigger our voice. Right, so now we get pitch and rhythm. If I lock this, now in the final setup I did this a bit differently. I have separate pitch sequence and a separate gate sequence. So let me really show you now the final setup. So again, as you can see, this setup is a bit different. Like I mentioned, instead of having the same sequencer for pitch and gates, I have a dedicated sequencer, a dedicated setup for each of them. I also added another sequencer for velocity and another one for modulation that you can use with the timbre parameter. So you can sequence also velocity and modulation in the same style of the Turing machine, locking and unlocking sequences. Now another thing I added here is the multiply module to let through the gates whenever there is a gate coming in, which means that you need to have a sequence actually running, right? You need to have a note here like I have here in a clip, right? So as long as it's running, as long as you have a note, this setup will run, which means that you can use clips to launch this setup at specific times and also use notes to have it play just when you want it to play. And of course, I have all the macro controls here set up for the different sequences to loop them, to change the length, and also to double the length like we've seen before with reversing the sequence. So let me show you this. Let me run this. Right now everything is random. Now I can loop, for example, just the pitch. Right, but we still get random triggers. I can change the range. I can loop more or less the gates and then maybe change their length a bit. Right, or lock them. I can double their length. And you can see this here now, it's going also in reverse. Right, and again we have also velocity, so if I'm adding velocity to this, we have also a velocity sequence that I can also change. Right, I can also sort of have lock it. And we have also modulation again through the timbre control. So I have here the expressions. I can, for example, modulate the fold. Right, and this will be bipolar. Right, and again, lock it, make it double length. I can even add slew to it, so if I don't want it to be rigid, I want it to be smooth. Right, so I can smoothen it a bit, maybe release it just a tiny bit here. Right, I can lock, I have the gates locked, but the pitch not. Right, so we have the same rhythm, but the pitch will change. Right, so that's the setup. It can be quite fun to experiment with and come up with ideas. You can record them, you can record the MIDI, process things. But that was it for today. Thank you again for watching. Cheers.